may know me already. I saw in the names familiar faces, and others actually might wonder, who I am, what I'm about, why I'm making this topic about how to start a business. So I have about 18 years total of experience in human resources. So I'm really more someone coming from the functional type of work. I've worked for big companies, mostly being an employee my entire life. And the reason why I'm sharing this story with you is just to help you also understand how you can move from being an employee to being an entrepreneur. It is possible. So how did the idea pop up? Well, I was an employee my entire career working in human resources. And in 2011, 2012, I really wanted to do something different. I was in search for more meaning. Probably some of you can relate, always the same type of work, and wanted also to bring more value in general to the world, as opposed to just processing documents and being behind a computer. So I did a master's degree, and that was to be trained more in leadership and management, but I also wanted to start my own business. And just to let you know, at the beginning, it's really not that easy. I mean, you don't necessarily have the support. And I remember in 2011, I didn't really know where to start. So it was really a story of trial and error for me. I just tested basically what I could do with outplacement, which is really helping people with job search. I worked for a consulting firm in Annecy, and that's what really helped me also understand how you go about it, what type of programs, etc. And really, I was doing it part-time. I was part-time employee and part-time launching my ideas, building my website. And when I really went for it full-time was really January 2015. So again, it's a journey, and it's okay. You go through different stages. You're also always in the back and forth with being an employee and being independent. So this is why I want to encourage people to really stick with an idea and go for it. And really my message is that now I wouldn't change a thing. I'm quite happy where I am, but it's a journey, and you have to give yourself time. So that's for my story. Hopefully some of you can relate. So the first thing I want to cover is really, is business creation right for me? Because I think some of you probably think, well, do I have the right profile? So without getting into details, which is not the purpose of this webinar, it's what type of situation is ideal to create a business. So the first one is really, what is your current situation? So if you tell me, well, right now I have to be the main income earner in the family, I have loans that I need to pay off, I need to provide, I like the comfort of being an employee because I do like my paycheck regularly. I would say give yourself a little bit more time, maybe test also with some people, just ask questions. Maybe at this stage in your life, it may not be the right time, and it's okay. Sometimes it's not meant to be at that particular moment. I met people that weren't ready, and then a year later I bumped into them and they said, you know what, I went for it and I started my business. So it was just the time wasn't right. However, if you're in a situation where now you were able to set a little bit of money aside, you're already quite comfortable where you are, and you actually have a skill that you master, and you're ready to launch your ideas, I would say this is probably a better stage to be in your life to start a business, because you will need to have certain support around you to get going. So this is the first thing, really. And then I wanted to share with you also a little bit about business creation. So business creation is not what it's cracked up to be as what we read in magazines or see online, because I think at the moment there's a little bit of a hype going on with business creation, that you can do it quickly and you make millions. I read the stories every day, especially on Facebook, and I'm on Facebook. So I think it's a little bit false marketing, and it can hurt people, because if you have a good job and you leave it thinking you become a millionaire, it can actually hurt your financial situation. So that's why I shared my story as well, to explain that it's really a journey, and you may start where you're actually doing half and half with a job. You have to build your reputation. You have to have some connections. So everything is quite important to set the right setting. So when I see these commercials, I'm very mad, because I think it gives people the wrong impression. So the first reality is that you need to be in the proper stage in your life. You need to find a good business model, because a lot of people have ideas, but not all of them are good ideas. I think that's something people forget sometimes. You have to find a good idea and something you've tested, small. You have to be someone that's actually quite focused and determined. So if you're, for example, I meet people who say they like the social thing, especially in the workplace. It's true that at the beginning, you might be on your own, working on your project late at night and on weekends, and no one is going to be there to tell you, stick with it. So it's something you have to really believe in and stick. You also have to understand that income is not instant. So that's also something I need to tell people, is that when you start, if you do it half and half with a job, that helps. And also, you're not going to get paid immediately when you start Monday and you get a paycheck on Friday. You have a few years sometimes when you can't pay yourself a salary. I mean, it really depends on what you're doing. If you're a consultant and you go for mandates, which is more the freelance, then of course you get paid for your mandate. But if you're an entrepreneur, which is a little bit different, when you actually have a concept and you're launching your concept, you don't know if people are going to buy into it. So maybe you can't pay yourself a salary, and yet you have expenses, you know, and that could be a bunch of expenses, marketing, maintenance of websites, etc. So you have to think about all these things based on your business model and what you want to do. So this is really the reality of business creation. So what I do is, after each part, I take questions. If you think of a question, or I have a few also that I have written down that could help you. So I'm open for that right now if you want to ask a question. Okay, I don't see any question yet. For people who came a little bit later, for questions, you have to click on the link on the video, and then you should have a Rubik's Cube on top, and you just click on that to ask a question, and I should see it appear on my screen. But again, if you have questions later, I will cover them on Meetup. I will reply some way. So I have a couple of questions that people may wonder. Which business models work well in 2016? I think there's a few out there that are quite relevant. For example, anything linked to social. There's still quite a few business models. I mean, of course, we've seen Airbnb and basically websites that put people in contact for various things, and not the whole market is covered yet on all the needs that you can have. So anything, basically, what I consider good business model now is really things linked to a website, for example, that's working for you even if you're not there. So putting people in contact for a fee, for example, is a good business model. And we've seen Airbnb working like this, and of course Uber. So that's really the trend, but there's going to be other business models, also other needs coming up. Anything linked to service is quite relevant now. So you can look also in magazines and online to see what's happening in the world. So I want also to make a point on freelancing, because there's a difference between freelance and entrepreneur. So a freelance is really someone who trades their time for money. So you have a contract with a company, for example, and they say, I need you 20 hours, and you know, how much are you charging per hour, and you get paid. It's a contract, you sign it, and that's it. So that's a solopreneur. I mean, that's a freelancer, sorry. However, an entrepreneur is someone who comes up with a concept. For example, thinking about Uber, you know, I want to provide taxis, and people drive a car and you pay a fee for that. That's a concept. So it's not trading time for money is the big difference. So I just wanted to make that point. Both are really quite different in terms of approaches, but I think both need to have a business model for it. If you want to make money as a freelancer, you need to have a good way of selling your services. But I will answer some questions on that later. So the next thing to cover is really, what kind of value do you have to offer people out there? What is your thing? What are you good at? So I think the first thing is really to assess that you can cover your expenses. And then what kind of skills do you have? What kind of expertise? I think what people are buying nowadays is really expertise. You can find services, many people can do the same thing, but in the end, it's really what type of value you're providing. So maybe you sell accessories or jewelry online, but yours is different because maybe you give an extra gift to your customers, or you have special attentions. I think the service is really where you can make the difference, is how you sell something very typical, but you have that little service there. The other thing you need to think about is how you find partners. And again, depending on what kind of business model you're choosing, I think you may start alone, which is what I did, but at some point you need to surround yourself. You need to find people that have the skills that you don't have. And I just met recently with an entrepreneur, and he said, if you want to actually grow a business at some point, you need to be surrounded. So for example, if you're good in marketing, maybe you need someone on the IT end, which was my case. For example, I have someone helping me on that. So, so you need complementary skills, because when you become a solo game, obviously you need to start developing skills everywhere, but there's only so much you can do. And the value you're bringing is really the value you're bringing to your client is your expertise. So you can't spend your time on administration and IT. I think it's good to have good knowledge, basic knowledge, so that you understand what it is. And when people talk to you, you can have a conversation on the need. But doing everything yourself is a little bit of, it would be a waste of time in my view. And that's something also I've learned through my journey, that at some point there's things that you can easily delegate, and it's better value for your time. And you can spend that time with your clients, which is really your key. So finding time with strategic partners, in my view, is quite important. You can start little. You can start really with your concept and testing it. But at some point, if you want to have something more professional and more developed, you will need to surround yourself. The other thing I wanted to mention is about finding partners. It's a little bit like in real life or in relationships. It has to be mutual. You can't necessarily, even if you recognize someone is very good, I mean, that person needs to also feel that way and want to work with you. So sometimes we meet people, we say, I'd love to work with this person, but maybe it's not the right timing for them, or, you know, they're not ready and there's nothing you can do about it. So my advice for that would really to be in the scenes for entrepreneurship where people are like-minded. So most of the people I work with right now, I deal with, they're people I met in we were in similar circles. So we go to the similar events with people that are like-minded. So they're about developing themselves, developing their skills, you know, setting themselves up for success. So it's quite important to be surrounded by people that think alike, so that when things go a little bit difficult in your project, well, these people will put you back in the, you know, in place and say, you know, look, you know, this is what you signed up for. I want the same thing. Let's support each other. So really meeting people that are all about success and wanting to achieve what they want is really important in my view. And then things will happen naturally, because, you know, if you meet people that are alike, partnerships will form, it will be natural. So that's a big message as well, is really to be out there and show your project, show what you're capable of doing, and then you'll attract people naturally, because they'll say, this person is really good and I want to be part of that. They're full of energy, they're inspiring. So that's important. So what I work with also with clients, the next point is really the strength. What are your strengths? What are you good at? And sometimes people are not sure about that. And when I shared my story earlier about my journey being in human resources, I was mostly a functional person. I knew how to do human resources, but I had no sales background, no marketing. I wasn't what you would call a typical entrepreneur. I didn't have a family that supported that, or, you know, that was in that type of environment. So just to show that even if you have no clue or you're not sure where to start, anything can be learned, in my view. And it's just surrounding yourself with the right people, and people that could also encourage you and help you through the journey. So that was my learning, is that I was missing certain things at the beginning, and it took me a while to get those skills. So that's why now with my clients, I want to help them also in terms of developing faster and getting the little tricks in terms of where do you get the knowledge. Everything I build is around there, is how do you get the information quick, and how do you find partners more quickly. It's to gain time, basically. So your strengths are going to be important as much as your weaknesses, because again, in having maybe people working with you, it's what can they bring you that you don't have. And that takes also a lot of time to recognize our weaknesses, because we think, okay, I'm working in this job, for example, and I've been doing well for a long time. So to put yourself in a new situation where you're an entrepreneur and realizing that you don't have all the solutions, it's a little bit difficult to accept, and also to learn it from other people, to learn what you're missing. So it's really putting yourself in a situation of, I don't know all the answers. I'm trying here, and I want to get feedback from people, and I want to be helped. So if you're putting yourself in a learning situation, then I think you'll grow faster as well. And I would really recommend, even if you just want to go for freelancing, you're not building a concept, to still do a business plan, because that will keep you focused. What I've seen also in my experience is that people lose focus because they test something and they don't really know what they're supposed to do. So really trying to build a small business plan just to keep you focused, and what type of client should you be gearing at, etc., that will help. So at this stage, any more questions before I move to how do I get started? I don't see any questions online. So that's okay. I have a few questions too that people might be curious about. So I just talked about business plan. So people will say, well, how do I build a business plan? Now, it seems quite complicated. A while ago, it used to be that a business plan was a bit scary, and it included figures and projections and everything. I've tried to make it simple, actually. I've been working on my own business plan, and I started really big. It had 20 pages or something like that, and it was quite a difficult thing to put together. So I've built something for my clients, actually, that is really small. And it really covers the basic, because after a while you realize, okay, what do you need to know in the end? Where you're going, what services you're offering, and how do you go about it? What planning, what marketing? So I made it simple in a way, with a one-page document. So that's something I can discuss also offline. But I'm building tools also for entrepreneurs so that they don't have to think about business creation as something really complicated. So again, I would really recommend that you do that, whatever type of activity that you plan on doing. And the next question you may have is, how do you know if you have the right skills at this stage to be an entrepreneur? As I said earlier, it's not something that's necessarily that you're born with. Some people do grow up in families of entrepreneurs, and they're quite lucky, actually, because it's almost like it's given to them at a very young age, and they grow into that mode. But not everyone has that chance. I mean, some people might be born and raised in a family where it's basically you're getting a job and you do that, So it takes to meet some people that will also shift your mindset and help you actually change your mindset. And of course, there's books I'm reading and people you're meeting to actually not forget what your parents taught you, and getting a job might be right for some people, but it's also to open new windows that we may not have in our childhood. So that was my big learning. So from there, how do you get started? Well, there's different types of businesses in my view. So the first one is really what I would call, so I see three types of businesses in 2016. So the first one is really what you probably heard of everywhere in the news, because it's the big hype right now, is the startup. So what is a startup? You've probably heard that term and not sure, maybe confuse it with other terms. So for me, a startup is really an organization that's meant to grow quickly. So you start maybe alone, maybe with partners, but the idea is really to grow big. I mean, I just met someone recently who said, I want to make $1 million francs. The idea is really to develop a concept that will be really big and really change maybe even the way people consume or work now. I'm thinking about Uber. No one would have thought that it would be that big, but the idea was really to create a big company that's going to grow quickly. So that's one type of business. Then you have the traditional type of businesses. So I want to open a cafe, or I want to open a beauty salon, and that's fine as well. We need those businesses, and that's more the traditional type of business. And then finally, you have a new one, in my view, that, and this is the one I'm interested in, and probably some of you may know about. It's called the lifestyle business. So a lifestyle business is really something that you create to fulfill your personal wish for a job. For example, you want to be a coach and help people in certain aspects of their life or their business, or you want to create, maybe you have a concept and you want to develop it online, but it's something that you really want to do in respect with your private life. So it's maybe something you do even part-time, but it's really to have that balance where you feel fulfilled and you're not working necessarily dozens and dozens of hours. Because a big thing with the other types of businesses I just mentioned is that they require a lot of investment. And sometimes you think, well, I'm becoming independent, so what is the point if I'm going to work as I was working in a big multinational? I'm going back to that same slavery, but in a different way. So I think now there's a bunch of people out there that are saying, look, we want to work, we want to do something fulfilling, but on our own terms. And it's called a lifestyle business. So you build something, for example, I'll give you an example. So you have an ebook that you have online that people download for a fee, for example. Or what some people are doing also is selling packages and things like that. So it's really a new economy, in my view, that people are saying, I have a skill, I can bring something to the world, and I will make it available. And I don't need to have a big structure, I don't need to have big investments, it's just me and my skills. So that's the big trend I see going forward, and that's the trend I embrace personally. So it's the free lifestyle. You can work your own hours, work from anywhere, work from your laptop, basically. So you need to build, of course, your service offering, and you have to build your business model. But I think it's something that a lot of people might be interested in the future. So that's for the different types of businesses. Now let's talk about the big thing for a lot of people is, how do you fund yourself when you start? Because usually when you start, you don't have your paycheck anymore. It's difficult. So my recommendation is really to think about what you need. And that can depend based on the type of business you pick. Obviously, if you're going to open a cafe or you're going to open a store or something like this, it's different investments than if you're just signing up for a basic website. So you have to think about all these costs. What I typically include in my starting cost is really the basics: a laptop, business cards. You just do a budget on what this costs you, and also what kind of money you need to cover your expenses. So I would start really with a small bundle. What you will also need is family support. This is quite important, but if you don't have it, it's not necessarily a big a reason not to start a business. You just have to, make your family know that you're going to do it anyways, and whether they enjoy it or not, that's your life after all. And that's something also to manage. And I think it's probably difficult for a lot of entrepreneurs because you want to start something, but you don't necessarily have the support. So you need to find it in other ways, maybe through friends, maybe through mastermind groups, etc. So mastermind group is really people that are thinking alike, as I was saying earlier, that meet regularly and support each other. So I'm planning on building those kinds of groups as well for business creation. However, you have other types of supports you can reach out to. And the other support is really what's available in terms of your city where you live. So I don't know online if some of you are dialing in from a city, so I don't want to make it too Geneva centric. But you always have something called chambers of commerce, and they're actually their main reason for being there is to help businesses settle. So there should be in any city that you live in the world a place where you can go to, a chamber of commerce that's there to help you settle and help you with your business. The other support is actually people like myself that are working in career development and helping also with the business creation and the project. You also have all kinds of associations you can go to. Anything that's linked to your work environment, maybe ex-colleagues or current colleagues that are doing similar things, or people that are working in the field you target. For example, when I do a self-assessment with people of their work and their history, I have them check in with people that are doing the type of job that they want to do. because sometimes we have a vision of what we want to do, and when we meet with the individual, we realize, well, you know, I thought being a baker was exciting, but you have to wake up extremely early and it's actually long hours. So opening a bakery may not be that exciting. So it's always a trade-off. Depending on what you choose to do as a business, there's also a trade-off in terms of hours or maybe the salary. I just had someone recently told me, if you're independent, my God, for three years, you're not really making a lot of money. And that's a big thing for most people to accept that, unless they're extremely driven by their project. So all these things you have to take into account, is really getting the support, moving forward on your project, but knowing that there will be some challenges there. Also, joining groups on social media. There's a lot of groups that are there to support entrepreneurs, that are sharing tips. So it's quite important to be surrounded also with these people. So social media is a big support. Entrepreneur events also, there's more and more now with this trend of setting up businesses, so you can meet people that are thinking alike, and that becomes also your support group. The other thing I wanted to mention in that finding support and funding your project is questions that you may have around copyright. So you think, okay, I have a big project now and I don't want anyone to steal the idea. Well, unless it's someone like a new product or something extremely innovative, if it's just a concept, for example, for people who put documents online or templates or ebooks and things like that, probably if something is working well, someone is going to copy at some point. So if it's just, you know, if that's the, and I've had people where that was the big barrier to starting their business, is the fear of someone taking the idea. So they wouldn't talk about it, they wouldn't share it. And to be very honest with you, when I started back in, when I started with testing my idea in 2012, 2013, I didn't want to tell anybody because I was afraid someone would take the idea. And then I thought, this is ridiculous because there's many people offering similar things anyway. I'm not bringing something that's completely changing the world. So in the end, it's actually better to share your idea because you can get feedback and people will say to you, and that's what happens to me now when I share my ideas. People say, well, you know what, I don't know if I would buy this, or you know what, yeah, this is a good idea, but you should do this in addition. So you're getting good feedback that's helping you build your idea. Whereas if you were taking it just for yourself, you're missing this external view, which is going to be, to me, it's going to be central to your success. So that's what I would really recommend, is don't worry so much about copyright. We're in a day and age now where everything is online. So it's going to be hard to protect things unless it's artistic material. That's another story there that I don't want to discuss here in great length. But if it's just starting a business concept in general, I think you should go for it. So you can just start your own thing. You know, start little would be my advice. And test it. Test with friends, test with a small group of people so that they can tell you whether they think you have a good idea, or whether they can tell you, well, you know what, this already exists and this is the website, and maybe you learn about it because we don't know everything that's existing. So that's my advice. Any questions at this stage on the webinar? I'm trying to see here if I see any questions. And again, for some of you who came later, it's a little Rubik's that you have to click in on top. So I thought maybe at this stage, one question that some of you may have, or maybe you don't have it, but I will cover it, is how do I start what lifestyle business? Because I think some of you might be interested in that. So a lifestyle business is really, well, I have an idea. For example, I'm not available full-time, but I want to start something maybe on the side. So it's really, you have a business concept. So let's say you have an ebook that you want to make available so that people can actually download it and then they're interested in speaking with you further. Or for example, it could be you become a virtual assistant. So you're an executive assistant by trade. That's what you've done your whole life. And at this stage in your career, you think, I'd like to make that available to the public. So now you can easily sell your services online and maybe charge a fee. I know someone who does that. For example, she has an offering online on a very simple website, and she says, this is how much I charge to write letters, or to create a listing, to send emails. So basic admin stuff. And she offers her services as a freelancer. So it's really building a package and making that available online. It's very simple once you figure out what you're selling and to whom. So a lifestyle business, in my view, is something that's very achievable to most, and you just need that little maybe extra help to get it started. But it's a real solution, in my view, as opposed to trying to find a job, and maybe this job is 100% and you're not willing or wanting at this stage to work 100%, for example. The other question you might have, and I'm not covering it fully here, but I think it's important, is when should I register my business? And again, I'll make the difference between different countries because I'm Geneva based. So I'll talk for Geneva, for Switzerland. In Switzerland, there's a little bit of an understanding that when you start with a concept, you have to test and you have to get clients. So it's not a big deal if, for example, you decide to go and actually try to start contacting a few leads and maybe nothing happens for a few months. You don't need to register your business on day one. And actually, you probably won't be able to, because even as a freelancer, you need to show that you have some contracts already before they register you. So don't worry about registering at the beginning. If you see that you have some clients coming through, after a while, you can say, okay, maybe now it's time to register, but don't worry about it. Don't let that be a barrier, the administration, to starting your business and your idea and meeting people. The other question you may have is, how can I sustain my living expenses if I start? Obviously, you just mentioned that there might not be an income at the beginning. This is why I said earlier to have a little bit of a bundle aside, so that you can sustain your lifestyle and your expenses for a while. The other question also you may have is, how do I find the idea that's right for me? That's a big question. And again, as many of you, I see 14 people that join in today. As many of you are here, there could be a lot of ideas, and I can also help with that, trying to find what would be a good thing for you. And it might be something you haven't done yet. I just talked to someone recently, and it was just by talking together, and she shared her passion for something she just learned about. And I said, this is a great idea for you. Just go and start it out. So it's just maybe the exchange again with others, you will get ideas, especially if you start joining entrepreneur type of groups and going to different events. You'll see that the exchanges are quite rich and you always learn something, and that's when you can get ideas if you don't have any and you're in a search for an idea. So moving forward, now halfway through, I hope you're still there. I see we have one more person that joined, so I'm quite happy about that. So talking about building a small fund, I think it's essential for the beginning to set a little bit of money aside so that you can sustain your expenses for a while. What you can do is also what I shared with you earlier, is to start, and I have proof of that. I read about the right half and half in terms of staying employed and working on your business. You can stay employed, for example, 70% and work on your business 30%. That usually works for many people, because again, I want to reassure you that starting a business is not necessarily something you have to jump in the unknown. It's something you can do progressively. So maybe you still work a little bit for a while and you only start on your business 30% of your time. But at some point you will need 100% of your time when you really start developing, when you start getting leads, and when you want to grow, because at some point the weekends come and maybe you're not motivated. So you need to be able to be in a stage where you say, okay, now I want to go full-fledged, with the business 100%. So that would be my recommendation. If you're a little bit worried about, I don't want to make the big jump now, I'm not sure, maybe that's an arrangement that you could have with your business, where you start little and then you grow a little bit into it. And if you say I have no savings right now and I don't have any funds, then I would say work at least in a temporary assignment or something where you can have that little fund. I wouldn't start with a zero fund, even though, again, those commercials will tell you just start your business with no money. I think realistically, you will need to invest in some things, and as basic as your tools, your business cards, your computer, your travel, you need to invest a little bit. Then once you decide that you want to start your business and you have some kind of idea, you need to plan. Planning is going to be extremely important to the success of your business. You need to have some method. Again, it's not, I don't want to make it like planning is going to be a barrier, just like registering your business shouldn't be. But you have to have a focus, and that's where the business plan can help you. At least know where you're going, know what type of marketing you need to put in place, what are your targets. This is going to be essential for you. And determine also regularly if it's working, reassess regularly. For example, let's say you launch, whether it's a product or service, and it's not working for whatever reason, just change it. Don't try to wait until maybe people come in and buy your service or your product. Just reassess, say, okay, this is not working. And it's a testing ground. So you keep going for it, and at some point you will get results. Do not hesitate to change the way you started. We're in a very unstable type of market. So maybe when you start, this product is really hype and you're confident, and maybe 6 months later, it's not the case, or the product didn't work very well. So this is something also that will be important, is to reassess and just stop something that's not working. The next thing you will need to do is to develop your entrepreneurship skills. So for example, you will need to be good at bring value to people. That's going to be quite important. I call that serving people. So you need to be out there thinking about, how do I bring value? How do I serve people so that they come back and want more from me? So it's not necessarily going from how do I make money out of this business, because then you'll put a lot of pressure on yourself immediately. It's more, what can I bring? What kind of expertise, what kind of experiences that people will benefit from it. And then you will see, you will again attract naturally clients that way. And also you need to invest in yourself. So train yourself on different things, train yourself on the entrepreneurship skills that you may not have from birth, which is the pitching and the commercial aspect and the marketing aspect. All these things can be learned. I'm very confident on that. So, you just keep going for it. But you have to understand that at some point you will need these skills. So I'll give the example of, let's say someone who has a great idea, and I've met this kind of person, great website, invested a lot of money in her product, very professional, very professionally done, everything. But then she didn't really understand her why. She just did it because she enjoyed it and it was fun. But then when she was done with it, there was no energy anymore. So you need to be energized by your project, something you really feel close to you. Maybe you're bringing in a service that you think is going to help some people, and you really feel confident in that, and you want to do that. You're really, really comfortable with it. So know your skills, know what you do well, and that you can do also by getting feedback with people and what you do well. And also you will sense it, when you meet with people, you will see if you have an impact on your work. But I will put a caution into that. Do not go on the overtrain type of thing. I see people also, they're never trained enough to start. I still need this, and I don't understand accounting and planning, and it doesn't matter. At some point, you can always find people who can do things for you anyway. So just start little, and don't worry if you're not trained on everything. You can always get the information later. So when you have clients, you can always work on the other things later. So again, don't make that a barrier in your success. So what I was just saying, feedback is going to be essential. So if you're still in that situation, which most people are, between being an employee and going for your business, it's okay. Just keep getting more feedback until you feel like you're ready. And it might take months or a year or more. It doesn't matter. The thing is that you plant a seed. You say, okay, now I have this idea, I want to start working on it. I may not be able to give it 100% now, but maybe in a year it will work, or 2 years, and you still maybe even keep a job until then, but at least you're starting something. Because I think the worst is to feel helpless. And that's why the reason of my business, Pleiad HC, or the why, my why, is to give people independence and get their freedom back, which is something that I find a lot of people feel that they don't have, because they're stuck in a job they don't like, and they have the 9 to 5 thing, or 9 to 6 rather, and they feel like they don't have any power. There's this powerless feeling of, I have to be there because I have to pay bills, or because that's what's expected of me. So we forget that we do have a power to say, I don't want this. Now, of course, there's trade-off. Maybe you consume in a different way and you don't have the same amount of money, but you always have a choice in life. And that's what I want to give people, their choice back, to say that they can start a business and feel happy with what they do. So give people their choice back, empower, basically, so that they can make the right choices. So it's okay if you're still stuck now between a job and an entrepreneur. It's fine. You will, at some point, it will make sense to you, little by little. The light will show, or you will get some messages that say, it's working. For example, when you start, maybe you have just one client, but this client is extremely happy with your service and tells you that they're quite happy, and you think, wow, I guess I did something right. So it encourages you for the next step. So again, it's little steps. The other thing I can advise is volunteer your time with business owners that are people that you want to be like. So for example, if you say, okay, I want to open a nail salon, for example, and you don't really know what it's about, you don't know if it's right for you, maybe you just go there and meet an owner and just say, I want to see how you work, what's going on, are you happy in your business, do you make a living out of it? So it's just testing also with people that are doing similar things. And another thing that can help you as well is a skills assessment, which is something I typically do with my clients, especially the ones that are quite confused and not sure. The skills assessment is really, what have you done in the past? What is your assessment from it? So let's say you were a manager for many years, working for different companies. What kind of skills did you get from that? What you like, what you didn't like? What's your wish right now in your life? And you have this assessment, and now you can look at it and say, I think I'm ready for the next step. But until you look back at what you did, it's going to be hard to project yourself in the future. So that's why I like doing this this work, which is really retroactive, so that the person understands where they're coming from and where they want to go. So that, to me, if you do this well, if you do these 3 things already, you can be in a situation where you get a little bit of power back on your side, because you say, okay, I've done a self-assessment on my skills. I know where I'm going. Now I'm going to test it with different people. I'm going to try on the market, see if it works. Then you feel that, okay, this is working, this is moving forward, even if it's not completely there yet. So in other words, if I have to summarize everything I just said in one sentence, is start building your business small and just test it and go for it, and don't worry about the rest. So if I don't see any questions, again, it could be that this is my first webinar, so maybe I'm not clicking on something, but again, I'll be available for you in any case. I do have some questions that I received prior, so I think I will cover them right now. So one question came from Christina, if Christina is listening to me now, is how can I become a freelancer in Switzerland? Where do I start looking for this information? So I think I covered a little bit of that in my presentation. Freelancing is basically, you have a service. I think here, if I understand correctly, you were wanting to offer administrative support. So I mentioned actually the virtual assistant could be one. You could work even with different employers that way. So that could be one way of doing it. That's how you would start your business as a freelancer. And I don't necessarily need to think you need to register immediately. Just start seeing if people are interested. But I think in this situation, building a package would be great. So what kind of services do I want to offer? And then start approaching different organizations and see if they're interested. But I think it's a great idea. I also see a trend with administration where companies don't necessarily need either people permanently or even on a full-time basis. So if you're a virtual assistant, meaning people just contact you per demand, on demand, it's good for everybody, because then you need to work on your own time. You have a contract with this person and you just work once in a while with them doing administration. So I see a trend in that. I think virtual assistants will be needed. And it's great for businesses who can't afford a full-time assistant. So I see some potential in that, especially in Switzerland in the future. So that's a good idea. So I think I answered the question. The next question from Cyrus, how can I convince people to team up when they already have a job and need income? That's a great one. I love this question. I think I also covered that a little bit when I talked about partnerships that should be mutual and just natural. If you are looking for people to start a business with you, obviously you need to be on the same wavelength. For example, I met my current outsourced partner for IT just from meeting with him and just see if we had similar interest and wanting to work together. So it was more of a natural thing. If it's someone, however, you identify and you would like to join you, it just needs to be the right timing for this person. So you can just check in regularly, see if they're on the right, if they're on the same path with you, and just ask, do we want the same thing? Are you also wanting to start a business with me? If they have some objections, such as, well, I need my job. After testing with the person, if you see they're still in their job, there's not much you can do about it. It's people need to be ready, and if they're not, there's not much you can do, as opposed to checking in regularly, maybe showing them the benefit for them if they started their company, getting back their freedom, working on their own terms. Could be a bit of a encouragement to actually leave the job, but everyone is different and they have different priorities also based on where they stand. It's a difficult one. But you can try to warm up to the idea slowly, and maybe at some point person says, yeah, you know what, you're right, I'm ready. Let's do it. And I would really encourage, I don't know this other person, but I would encourage them to just try it, because it's a great adventure. You learn so much more than when you're an employee, and you do so many interesting things. And I would say that probably supersedes all the different barriers you could have, such as funding, such as sometimes you're a little bit alone in your project. But if you look at all these different things, you can say globally, I know I wouldn't do it any differently at this stage, because what I've learned in the last couple of years is just completely mind-boggling. What you can do as a human being when you're put in a place where you get your freedom back and you can just go and do many things. It's just, there's nothing that you can get in the world that will compare to that. And even if you say you do everything and you go in that direction and it doesn't work out for whatever reason, at least you've experienced that. So I find that just experiencing such a great adventure is worth millions of jobs, in my view. So that's the question I received there. So I think it covers it pretty much. So I don't see any more questions from you. So what I wanted to communicate is that I wanted to do this on a presentation with a face presentation, but I understand that some of you may want to get PowerPoint as well, and I have a PowerPoint. So feel free to send me a meetup email and say, I'd like the PowerPoint, and I will send it to you, no problem. The other thing I wanted to mention, because I've talked about starting a business and try to make it something that's not such a big thing, I want to help you achieve that goal. So I want to help you via a package, and I'm more than happy to talk about it with you. Why would you want to work with someone on your project, on your idea? Well, the first benefit is the saving time, because you don't have to go and actually go around trying to find the right contacts. You have someone that puts you in the right track. The other thing that I found very important, because I went through that myself, is trying to avoid scams. There's many people that try to sell entrepreneurs many things, whether it's software packages, marketing, and it's huge pricing, expos, etc. So trying to avoid scams that beginner entrepreneurs would get when they don't know any better. And I have many examples of that, plenty. Also, the other advantage is to get connected with local network. Some of you might be expats and new to Switzerland, so that's also a value for you. To build a project with the right foundation, because if you start something and you realize, wow, I didn't do this and I didn't do that, it's good to have someone tell you from the beginning, this is the order of doing things. And also that whole assessment I was talking about, I gave you some general guidelines, but really working more on an individual basis. Is entrepreneurship the right thing for you at this stage? Sometimes you need an external person to actually help you go through that journey with you. So that's the benefit. So I don't want to get a lot of talk here about the package. It's something we can discuss offline. What I do want to say though is that I want to give you a free offer. I want to offer you basically some emailing support on top of the package, and I want to offer you the template I just talked about for business plan. So you would get the template for business plan. You would get the document on how to register your company in Switzerland with all the contacts, and you get emailing support. So that's a free gift I'm offering for people who do want to do a package with me. So that's my last message. Finally, I will do webinars like this on a regular basis. So I will start launching a series as of tomorrow, once a month. So I will do it online like this. And also you can check my website, Pleiad HC, www.pleiadhc.com, but you have that also online for people who are following me. And I also offer free tutorials for people looking for work. I do blog on different topics where you can get information as well. So I hope this was an interesting hour for you, that you learn at least one thing today with this webinar. It will be on replay on YouTube. So if you missed it, or you have a friend who would love to come today but they couldn't, they can still catch it. So again, I want to really thank you for taking this hour in your lunchtime to listen to me, and I hope I can be helpful for you. That's my objective, and I can help you achieve the dream that many have, to be independent and to have your own activity, your own business. So thank you, and I will talk to you soon. Don't hesitate to send me questions on Meetup if you have some.